Hello everyone. Today we are going to solve this monitored hectorbox machine. First of all, we are going to start with the mmap for scanning, and the command will be mmap mmap and output and TCP for scanning. In the so we can bind the port 22 8389 purple 3 5667 or open, which looks to be SSH, and HTTP, LDAP, HTTPS, and more. And then we can grab the ports using this only pattern matching per regex. Something is missing. Hmm. Paste. And then if we use this and echo this, we can find the port has been grabbed as expected. And then we can do nmap targeted TCP scans using this output service scan and default script and version detection, and the one is this. So we can bind the port 2280 LDAP and SSL HTTP and 5667 are open, and it says that did not follow redirect to HTTPS. So even if we access 80 port using port 80, it will be redirected to HTTPS. So we can add this in the etc host to make this resolvable. IP address will be this, and then I'd like to scan again Nagios Monitored HTB to get more information. So we can copy and paste again, so we can interpret this. So SSH is open, HTTP is open, and we can find more information with this. So the target looks running Nagios XI over HTTPS, and we can see what Nagios XI is. And we can also check TPS Nagios Monitored HTB advanced, accept the risk. So we can check out for tutorials. So docs view. Oh, Nagios XI looks to be streamlined environment for monitoring, troubleshooting, and proactive optimization in one place. Wrapping that can monitor just about anything that uses electricity with not just Exchange community site or custom plugins you write for unique environments. So this looks that Nagios XI is similar to monitoring tools such as Grafana. So we can at this stage we can also do UDP scan. So sudo mm perform a UDP scan and disable host discovery and all port scan Nagios monitored HTB. So we can find that the NTP and which is network time protocol, and it is used to synchronize system time, and SNMP, it is simple network management protocol. So it is used to monitor and manage devices, and SNMP can be used to can expose the system description, and it can also expose the sensitive credential as well. So we can perform the MF scan again with the command like I think I can close this and sudo mmap I think we can just like 123.161 tp targeted and Nagios monitored ATB again. I think I want service detection, default script and version detection. UDP targeted. So it says that the important part is public in SNMP. Public is the classic default with only community string. A community string is like a weak shared password for SNMP access. If the device accepts community string public, then an authenticated attacker may be able to query SNMP data below. So I would like to find some information from here. So the interesting comment looks to be this. This looks to be SVC is used as the service account, stands for I think so people use the service account for the SVC account. So and there looks to be the credential of this, so we can save this. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to try this credential monitored Nagios monitored HTB and copy and paste. Permission denied. Maybe it is not used for accessing SSH. Then we can look for another way. We can access this and SPC, copy and paste. The specified user has been disabled or does not exist. And then we can change like test and test 1 2 3. It says invalid username or password. So test and the SVC account, they show the different result. So technically we can also guess that SVC user account is correct and password is different, so we can crack the password using Hydra. But we can also think that we can also think that there could be another method to authenticate this Nagios XI. So the credential may still be valid in another authentication flow. So at this stage we can try to so one of the way that we can think is there could be a way to authenticate Nagios XI using API method. So Nagios XI and API login. I can check this in Google. So how to access and use the REST API in Nagios XI. So has built-in API that can be used to read and write, update, delete data via your API key and API docs. Accessing the API, so via the web request to gain the so we can find that technically we can use API key to access via the web browser, but we don't have API key, so API access we have the username, password, they also require API key. So ensure the username has API key. So we can also look for the official document, but at this stage we can also, so I was thinking that there could be any way to exploit the Nagios XI using username and password. So I can just like exploit DB. Then if we look into this, so if you look at this, actually there is the way to solve this machine inside this Python method. Of course, we cannot use this exploit. From my understanding, we cannot use this exploit to get to the remote code execution or local privilege escalation. But there is the way that if you look at this, Nagios XI API v1 authenticate pretty one, only the username and password and valid mean it looks like the it looks getting the token for valid period for the authentication token. Anyway, so we can use this method to log in. So let's break this down. The function sends a post request to Nagios XI API v1 authenticate pretty1, and the post body contains username, password, and valid 5. So the username and password are the credentials we want to test. And verify false. This tells Python request not to verify the TLS certificate. It is equivalent curl flag is K flag. So we can test this at this stage. So curl silent mode and K to ignore TLS certificate validation, and post method and the API method that you want is Nagios Monitored HTB, and then copy and paste, and the data is username is XPC, password is this, and valid mean I will set this 1000. So it appears that we can get the auth token as expected. So technically we can use this auth token to log in to the UI or something like this, and we can also check the token. So if we navigate to this dev tool, memory storage, we can use this value. It says another interesting message is showing. I can just make this short. I'll use this. We can check the vulnerability again. So research, and we can use this potentially. So it is like get method, so we can also use this in the website, this, and we can like generate again. Perfect. So instead of using the dev tool, so it looks like the token parameter is the way to get to the SVC in the UI, and then we can so if we navigate this, we can check the Nagios XI version is 5.11.0. So we can find that if there is any vulnerability, XI 5, there is the Nagios XI SQL vulnerability here that allows authenticated attacks to execute arbitrary SQL commands. This post cover affected version, so this version is also affecting. So widely deployed monitoring platform. So the component is ajax helper.php allow authenticator attackers. I think SVC account, we can consider this as the authenticated account or attacker or whatever to execute arbitrary SQL command, and ID parameter we use, and unauthorized access to sensitive data information. So the attackers can extract sensitive data, configuration details. So we can get the admin user credentials using this vulnerability. So I'd like to check the POC of this in GitHub. Copy and paste. Repository. There is DC map payload for this vulnerability, and the HTTPS will be Nagios Monitored HTB, and this is also Nagios Monitored HTB, and username is SVC, and so password is this. At this stage, we can also check what this means by using this command. This looks like we are getting the token. It appears that it looks to be token value related. So using the token, so we can use the Nagios XI database, and this looks to be the table, and dump is to dump the table comments. So this tells SQL map to extract the contents of the selected table XI users. And the level 4 increases the number of tests SQL map performs. Higher level means SQL map may test more payloads and request locations. And risk is related to riskier payloads. So parameter is ID, as we have seen in this like Sentinel-1, this vulnerability assessment, and that is it automatically chooses default answers, so we can use this command. So one thing we would like to find is admin monitored, Nagios administrator, and API key looks to be this. And enabled one looks that this account is currently enabled, and this looks to be password, but I think at this stage we can copy and paste all. So we can find that user ID, email, admin, name, Nagios administrator, API key. We can use this. We can find that the admin API key is this. So if we review this again, so we can watch this. So Nagios XI has a built-in API, can be used to programmatically update data in the system through commands authenticated via your Nagios XI API key. So we can also think that we can update the data. We can create the admin user using this admin API key. So we can also check this again. It says there is create admin method. We can also follow this again. So So we understand that the data is username, password, random password, random username. This is required, so this can be used to data, and the post is this. So we can copy this and create our cur post method again. Cur silent mode, Node.js certificate process, verification process, and post method, and post, and admin app key should be this, and we can insert the data, and data is like this, and user, I can modify now. I can like admin temp, password is password 123, and name is I am admin. This is also I'm admin, and we can add this step by step with following the structure. And it should be like this. And this, and this, this. Then we can run this command to create the, I can just like in case temp admin like this. This is Nagios Monitored HTTP, and we use HTTPS. So user account temp admin was added successfully. So we can access this using temp admin. I can log out. Temp admin password 123. Password 123, same password again. Oh, interesting. Perfect. So we can find that we can access more menus with the admin user, admin level user. So We can also check the document again. So what I'm going to do is admin exploit, which is like related to this. We can get the session and get the NSP string and data. This is like what we have done, and print performing mandatory password. This is what we have done, and creating new command. So we can create the new command. I think this is relevant more. We can create the new command in the Nagios, and this looks to be related to new command and created command. So this processes created command, and so this process is creating new command, and this processes looks creating the command. And so we can follow this process, the creating new command below process. And what I want to do is we can potentially navigate this site. Of course this is post, but it looks related. It says comment, so potentially we can add reverse shell, and we can run the print created command and capture the command CID, and we can use this with the NSP string, then check our listener, and then we can get to the shell using the listener, I believe. So then we can revshell.com, then our IP address is 4444. This I will use this one and save. So if we navigate to this, we can find that this ID of the ref shell is 155, which looks to be CID, like CID is comment ID. So what we have done is should be creating comment below, and there looks to be process that we need to like cmd continue confirm. We can also check where to confirm changes. I think this one apply new configuration to take effect. I think it is relevant. We can also copy and paste to, yes, I think this is relevant. Perfect. So what we need to do is turn on the listener, and perform this command using get method, so I can copy and paste, and we can get the NSP and CID, but we can find what NSP means by Nagios XI NSP. Sorry Dave, I can't let you do this. NSP. This looks to be related to session protection to prevent CSRF attacks, so this requires. So how to get this is we can navigate to this and take the NSP string. So I can use pursuit to navigate here. Proxy intercept on. We can send this to repeater and intercept off. Then we can get this again. Then NSP API. So this looks to be the NSP value that we want to find. So NSP value and comment CID looks to be 1 by 5 that we checked, and this must be Nagios Monitored HTB and HTTPS we need to use. And since this is like get method, we can just like this listener is listening. Interesting. Potentially we can go to core config again and use this one. Comment 1 by 5. I can edit and apply configuration again and make this again. Maybe I can get this again. I can use another rev share and see a user in sh apply configuration again. Maybe admin exploit. This should be the command. Perfect. So we can also get the shell elevation. Remi ID. Perfect. And Control Z and so I'm going to check the sudo permission for this, but we can find a lot of scripts that can be run with sudo. There are 4 methods to get to the root user, and the first one is send to an ls. We can check. So first of all, this looks taking 2 arguments, then remove, then 5 arguments, then process. So it requires hostname, port, tag, file. So it looks like related to rsyslog. So we can check what rsyslog is. rsyslog I think I can check this. High performance modular logging framework designed for traditional syslog and log processing pipelines, structural logging, and collect, transform, and reliably deliver logs. So we can deliver the file content if it's possible, and then the removing is a link decompile, which is related to 2 arguments thing. And what I want to check is automatically this. So this constructs the rsyslog configuration. So input, what if we can also input file as the root txt to get the root shell, a root flag, and tag can be random. So we can just say like random. So if tag, so it looks like this value is similar related to input file tag, then so this means the we can also check rsyslog. I will use this pro. I can like here rsyslog program name. It extracts the static program name portion from the syslog tag. So static program name portion. So we can also assume that this takes this value since it is related to tag, and then host name port, and we can check rsyslog this. Documentation. Favorite rsyslog. So all matches to be forwarded to the destination server. So this is like looks related to forwarding information. We can check more. So this is forwarding information using TCP. So we then, since this is IP, we can change this host name to 10 like this and this, and get the information using this reverse shell. So we can also test this. So we can run the 9003. So either print anything it received and the sudo l again, sudo this, and sudo this. I need to copy and paste again. And from the structure, I think first one is host name, which is like this value, and second is port tag file. Port is 9003, tag is random, file is that we want. We can run this. Interesting, because we didn't specify this, I believe. So after running this command, you can find that the root flag is showing from the reverse shell. And then I can and the next method I'm going to use is using get profile sh. I can also check this cat and copy this and so the maybe argument could be first one, I believe, but we can check more since it is it is like folder name ID, it looks to be. After get profile, then get OS version. I think the most important part is PHP, this part. So why this part is important? So it is getting PHP mailer log, and this f flags is this checks whether PHP mailer log exists and whether it is a regular file, and tail reads the last 100 lines and it will go to this. Then if we set this first parameter as 1, first argument as 1, then it will provide 1 PHP mailer log. Then we can check what this file is. LSLA. We can find that this file is readable and writable with the Nagios user. So this stands out because it is writable by the Nagios user. So Nagios user can control this file. So what I'm going to do is we can create the symlink to the root. We can also make the symlink to the root flag, but we can also retrieve the OpenSSH private key to get into the root shell at this stage. And what I'm going to do is lns and root to so tail can read the content in id rsa this then rm and then mailer and we can find the symbolic link has been created as expected. And so after this we can find that it is zipping logs directory. So this one is var components profile this file one php malloc if there is, so it navigates to the profile folder and move one to provide the current time, and we can zip this with containing this folder and delete this file. So this file is deleted and since it is components, the var components and profile.zip will be created. So we can run this command sudo user local nagios. I think I can sudo user bin local nagios xi script component profile sh1 So if we check whether there is the user local Nagios xi var components and profile.zip, we can find that this file has been created as expected. So we can navigate to temp and unzip q user look this file user local nagios xi var components profile root rc cd root id rc, then cd profile and let's cat php log. Then we can find the private key. We can also copy and paste, and from this shell I think we can also use this using tmos and by id root id rsa copy and paste chmod and SSH I root RSA and admin root Nagios Monitored HTB. It says bad permission. I can just like 600. Perfect. Who am I? ID. I can get the root shell like this. And the third method will be using manage services. I can exit and exit. So I can navigate here, clear sudo l. We can review manage services cat this I can also like this. So it is used to allow start, stop, restart of services using the proper method based on the actual version of operating system, and the examples are like this. So first is like start, restart, and this is the relates to first argument, and this relates to Nagios HTTPD second argument. Based on the like operating system. So potentially we can check whether there is any service that we can manipulate, and then we can restart these services to then we can run the service using the root privilege, and we can focus on the base dir is so in order to check this better, I'd like to run the limpias at this stage, so I can and cd specify the port and this mode. It is better to transfer Nagios Monitored HTB by I think it is like maybe better to find grep and this. So the path looks to be this, so we can check this with the path again. Services with writable path, MPCD and Nagios looks to be. So using the Nagios user, so technically we can write the Nagios and NTPD to MPCD to that we want, and then we can get the root share. So what I'm going to do is this. I can create the grep share and switch on. Since it is from manage services script is run by root user, this will also suffice. And then switch mode. So this is basically like copy the shell to root bash and make this like root user, root group, and then setting the permission to SUID. So even if I run this as the Nagios user, we can get the root share. So we can and then copy and before this we can also verify in case it says Nagios can write this, so I can cp text file is busy. Interesting. Then I can just like and then we can run the local Nagios XI script, manage services, restart Nagios. So it can be paired with the it can give us the paired message, because this Nagios malicious script is not the real Nagios daemon. And if we check this, we can get the root bash file, root bash, and it can not to drop the effective ID, we can like this. Then with my root, we can get the root shell too. And then we can also this one, we can also use this with the local Nagios bin and pcd text file is busy. Then we can also before this we can also bash here. Since this is like root users, so it makes sense. Then we can create another called act.sh file, and then delete this again. And so the root shell file will be created, and sudo user local Nagios XI script and services. Cat. Interesting. Then potentially we can stop and start again. So what I'm going to do is stop, start. First stop this. So first command I use this local Nagios XI script manage stop mpcd, and then sudo user local Nagios XI script start mpcd, and then interesting. Then potentially we can also cat create the reverse shell and test 9001 and then I think I forgot to run the reverse shell again. This one and this one. Perfect. So we can get the root shell as expected again, and then the last one will be backup file, so we can also cat we can also review this here. So this file is use this script to back up Nagios XI. So set the name minus the tar gz, so it will like compress like this. So this looks to be the related to the arguments there we need to fill, and but if you check this, it says managed services is used here again for the Nagios service, which we also used this for the reverse shell before. So we can also indirectly get the reverse shell using this command. So we can get to the I will make this as the reverse shell again. Perfect. So I can run this with the random argument. So I think all I need is like passing the argument and then yes, just passing the argument. So name, test, prepend, test, append, test, directory, temp, and then Hmm. Maybe I can also use the root bash command again. Before this, I can create this command for root, then cat fake Nagios, then either create the temp root bash, and I can also make this like this, and I can run the command again instead of using reverse shell method. Sudo l I think backup file sudo and name one test prepend abc append abc directory abc. Maybe we can follow cat this, and I think it is not like copied, so we can copy this and we can set the stage mode, and we can like remove, we can like run sudo directory temp name test backup prepend one append one directory temp prepend one I can get the root file. So tmp root. Yes, we can get the root shell again. So I hope this video is helpful and see you in the next video.